Welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast, your guide for living a life by design. Here, we explore the journey of becoming an outlier, finding your purpose, mastering your mindset, optimizing your health, achieving financial freedom, and building a life centered around your passions. So tune in, transform, and thrive. Welcome to the Outlier Mindset. Let the journey begin. Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Outlier Mindset Podcast. I'm your host, Rodman, Schley, and today we're joined by Michael Ceely, a high-performance coach and licensed psychotherapist who's dedicated to helping executives, entrepreneurs, and athletes harness the power of psychology for extraordinary results. With a background in counseling psychology and a passion for cycling, Michael sees sports as the ultimate avenue for human expression, which he covers in his upcoming book, The Only Way Is Up. Michael, welcome to the show.
Hey, Rodman, happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have you here today. We talk a lot about mindset on the show. Being an outlier, to be very unique and to really be different and to be exceptional, a lot of things start with the mindset. And if you don't have your mindset right, you're probably not going to become an outlier, because it's so important to be thinking properly, to me, making sure that you're taking a positive outlook into life every day. Not just a positive outlook. There's so many other things that go into mindset. I hate to just call it a positive outlook because mindset's so big, but you are the guy when it comes to mindset. I'd like you to tell people a little bit about your background.
Yeah, sure. I like how you're talking about mindset as generally being more positive is a good thing to be with your mindset, but it's not all that. It can be a little more complex, but happy to share my background. So I'll start with sixth grade. That was a big year for me, and there's a chapter in my book that's coming out about my sixth grade teacher, and he was really so. Certainly, my life started at birth, but really it started in sixth grade in a lot of ways. This is the first time I was really exposed to mindset. I'll call it mindset training. Prior to sixth grade, I had some great teachers, but it was all, I didn't really take things seriously. And so sixth grade was kind of the start of middle school. Life started to be a little more serious. Grades kind of started to matter. And I had a teacher who was a strict disciplinarian. And I struggled because prior to that, I didn't take things seriously. I had nice teachers, but no teacher that really wanted to kind of up-level people and really push them. And this guy is kind of an old school, strict guy. And he had this policy about homework. If you didn't do your homework, you missed a recess. And if you skipped 2 homework assignments, you missed a whole day. And if you skipped 3 in a row, you missed a whole week of recess. And it got exponential. Now, you couldn't do this today. You'd probably get sued for traumatizing the kids. But it was great for me. It's exactly what I needed. And I struggled and I pushed back and I would cry. And he said to me one day, you got to be cruel to be kind. At that time, I took it badly. I cried even more. It's like, this guy is so mean and so strict. But then it started to settle in and it started to resonate. And I started to understand what his agenda really was he saw potential in me and he wanted to hold me to a high standard. And by the end of that year, I was getting straight A's. Prior to sixth grade, I was getting B's, C's, D's. I was kind of screwing around. And so I say life started at sixth grade because it kind of did in a way. At least my mindset training started there. From that, that seed was planted that here's you can coach people, you can hold them to a high standard, you can see potential. Discipline, habits is so important. And from there, after that, I decided to get into sports. So I got into professional bicycle racing. I saw a movie called Breaking Away.
I remember that movie.
1979, 1980.
Mm-hmm.
Dennis Quaid was in it, Daniel Stern, some other kind of actors just starting out. And I saw that, and it was one of these things where like, wow, maybe I could do that. Could I do something that audacious and that difficult? Maybe I could, because in sixth grade, I got all A's. So then I decided to pick up bike racing. I got to a national elite level. made it to the Olympic trials, raced against Lance Armstrong, got like really very, very good. And I pursued that as a profession, made a little bit of money at it. But by the time I was about 25, I realized I wasn't going to be a pro. I decided to go to school, go to college, and same thing. Let me try to get into a really difficult school. So I got into UC Berkeley. And it was hard. It was some of the hardest academics I ever did. I had another teacher there, similar old school guy. He wasn't, soft on grades. He gave everyone the first quarter D, the entire class. And I was shocked by that. This is Spanish linguistics I was taking. So I went to him and I was like, I thought, I tried really hard. I've been studying. And he kind of looked at me. He goes, study more. He said, what's it going to take? Study more. Go to the library. So I went to the library and like this old like wooden desks and stuff. And I would study for like 5 hours straight. Ended up getting an A in that class as well. So throughout my life, I realized that I have so much potential, and I've chosen these difficult endeavors, and each time I've leveled up. Didn't think I could do it. Times I cried about it, but there's this theme that keeps happening. So after college, I became a Spanish teacher. Again, probably one of the most difficult things you can do as a profession. Teachers listening might understand. It's incredibly difficult. And unfortunately, it doesn't pay very well. So I did that for a couple of years. I got good at that, but I said, you know what? I want to make more money. Frankly, that was really the deciding factor for leaving teaching. And I got into, at the time, voice recognition technology, working with linguistics. So I did some projects for recognizing, basically speech to text, text to speech, things like that. And loved that. And then one day, I think I may have told you this before, but one day there was a organizational psychologist that came into this company I was working for, this tech company in San Francisco. And he was brought in to try to make us work better together as a team. And this was the first time I was exposed to somebody who did that as a profession, who comes into an organization very complex and tries to make the entire team perform at a high, like an outlier level, right? High level. And I was fascinated by like, wow, that's fascinating. Not just on the individual level, can you get the most out of people and raise them up, but maybe as an entire organization, a couple hundred people. And this guy came in, and Rodman, I tell you, he was terrible. I'm not going to name the company I worked for, just out of grace for them. They were best intentions, but I saw this huge opportunity. Like, here's someone, or organizational psychologist, who comes in, and his job is to figure out the puzzle and make everyone perform better. It's like, that's amazing. And I think he totally flopped at it. He just had us take individual tests, and he based everything on the tests. It felt very cold, very kind of hands off. And that inspired me to investigate that more deeply. I started reading about psychology, reading all kinds of books, Freud and Jung and all this stuff. And I got so really into it and decided to go get a master's in counseling psychology. So that brings us up to present day. That's what I do. So I split my time between being a psychotherapist, which I'm licensed to do that, and high performance coaching. They're two distinct things, but that's what I do. I love to figure out these puzzles. I love to, like mentors I've had in the past, see the potential in someone and bring it out of them by giving them hope, inspiration, and some really good habits that they can use that's going to bring them success. So that's what I do.
The first question I have for you now is, do you ever, or have you gone back to see that sixth grade teacher? Is he still alive?
He is still alive. Yeah. He is, I think, in his early 80s. And I actually I'm writing this book right now, and I ideally wanted to get permission from my teacher to publish this, because I didn't want to surprise him. I didn't want to embarrass him or anything like that. So I found his email. I reached out to him after decades, and I said, can I publish something about you? I'll send you the chapter, right? And, fingers crossed, I sent it to him. I was thinking in my mind, it's probably going to say no, you're painting me as too strict or whatever. But to my surprise, he was overjoyed, and he wrote me back a handwritten letter. And he said, this is one of the greatest gifts that I've been given, is to hear from you. And whenever I hear from a student, he said it's pretty rare, it fills me with joy, and it realizes how important we are in the world. No matter what you do, is you have an impact on other people. And so I got back in touch, and we even had lunch a couple of years after that. He happened to be in Florida, where I was at the time, and we had lunch after I don't know how many decades, and it was great. It was really fun.
Yeah, it's amazing the power that our teachers have. And I think a lot of them know it, but some of them don't even know how much influence and how much power they have with these children as they're growing up. So it's always, when you think about who you had as teachers growing up, I've got a few in my brain that I go, oh man, this person was instrumental, or this person gave me so much, or this person gave me that piece of confidence. But a lot of times, I think the people that are teaching, they get so focused in on their teaching that sometimes they don't even know they've got that kind of power and what they're doing to the students. But when it comes back full circle, like your teacher, when it came back to him to see what kind of influence and what kind of impact he actually had, that is a gift. And, my dad was a lifelong educator. He, was a elementary teacher, and then he was a junior high principal, then a senior high principal, then a superintendent of schools. But all the times he has these kids that are consistently coming back. And luckily, being a kid, being the principal's kid or whatever, a lot of my peers, a lot of my people that I went through school with come back to me and say, hey, your dad had such a beautiful influence on my life. And so that's so great that you were able to honor him like that, that he was able to look at what you gave him as that gift, and it just lit him up inside. That's such a.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What do you think about people, though? There's so many people that might not have that experience. You were blessed to get that in sixth grade. I think it came to me when I was maybe 14 or 15, still pretty young. But what about that person who doesn't get that out of the gates, or doesn't discover that early on? Maybe they're sitting in that room like you were when the not so good person came in and tried to motivate or tried to move somebody. How do those people, where do they find their inspiration? How do you get them to understand the power of mindset?
Yeah, well, podcasts like this, right? So that's today, you have the power of instant access to all kinds of positive influences and mentors. Just go on YouTube, go on podcast. And I've benefited from that. Like, most people have heard of Tony Robbins. You probably have listened to pretty much everything that he's done. And so that's what I would say is, choose it from media. If you can't get it in person, right, you can get it from podcast, great YouTube stuff. Choose wisely. You can also join groups. You can join networking groups and meet people there. So even if you don't have that good fortune of having someone kind of put in your path like that, there's a lot of positive people out there. You just need to tune into them and have a good diet of positive media and not the junk food. So
yeah.
Well,
I feel a lot of people don't know what the first step is to take. I mean, a lot of people, we get caught up in the minutia of life. I mean, whether we're in that job we don't want to be working, or we've got the bills to pay, we've got the house, we've got the car, we've got the kids. You've got so many things that are inundating you every single day over and over again. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of figure or take a look at our lives and we feel trapped. I'm trapped. So what about that person who's sitting there? I'm feeling trapped. I want to get some change made. I do want to be an outlier. I want to be different. I want to align with my purpose. What would you tell those people is a good first step to really start to take control of that life?
Yeah. Yeah, you can get caught up in life and the daily routine and feel like I don't have a minute to myself and I feel trapped. I would say that if you can find 15 minutes, even 15 minutes in your day for yourself, and start listening to like podcasts or start reading a book, or one networking event a week, if you can squeeze that in. And most likely, if you cut out some of the Netflix and cut out some of the kind of like sitting around and relaxing kind of stuff, you can carve out at least 30 minutes out of your day to start planting that seed and start getting your mindset tuned in a little bit different direction of possibility of, it is not all overwhelming. There is some stuff I can do. Maybe I want to take some time to make a 5-year plan and start, and maybe ask other people like, hey, can you spot me watching the kids? So a lot of times we take on so much on ourselves, like we have to do it all, and we don't even ask for help. And people are happy to give help, surprisingly. So I would say to someone who's feeling kind of trapped and, they don't have time, carve out time, make the time. You can do it. You can get up 15 minutes earlier. You can go to bed 15 minutes later. You can make these little tweaks throughout the day and make that time for yourself to start investing in your mindset through podcasts, through networking, etc. Ask other people for help. Ask your, neighbor to watch your kids or whatever it is. Be creative and just carve out some of that time. And that will get you starting to tune into possibility. Because if you're doing the same routine day after day, your mind is running the same program day after day. And you don't have that perspective. And if you look at a different vista, like that's what it's going to take, is just starting to see things in a different way and starting to think about positive possibilities.
Yeah, it seems too like life is so noisy. And I say noise in that our minds are moving at about 1,000,000 miles an hour. We've got whatever it might be that's happening during our day. We've got our kids. And now we've got social media that we're sitting there flipping through those kind of things. Like, to really get through to the other side, I feel like people need to find more stillness so that they can do a little bit more deep work, because we're not listening to ourselves because we're so busy listening to everything on the outside that's consistently bombarding us throughout our day. And so I like the idea of finding that stillness and sitting down with yourself and really doing some deep work, because I love what you said about the programming. Like, we start doing the same thing over and over and over again, and it's a program. And the only way that you're going to be able to break out of that program is if you change the way you're thinking, or change your mindset, or change your thinking, or take that time to find that stillness and then really start to work through what's important to you.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it like diet. So if you eat a bunch of junk food, you're going to feel bad, right? If you realize that having fruits and vegetables, once you get, off the sugar addiction and off of this sort of food addictions, you start to feel better, right? So think about that also with like your mental diet. If you watch the news, and by the way, I give a lot of my clients a challenge to not watch the news for 3 days and see if they can do it. And they realize they're actually addicted to the drama of the news. If you can start to cut out the mental junk food out of your life, the distractions out of your life, can you have a special place where you put your phone, a drawer? That's what I do. I have a drawer where I put my phone all the time, so it's in one spot and I don't keep looking at it. Can you start to be disciplined about your mental diet? And part of that is just thinking the same thoughts day after day. I want to add some new food to it, some more mental food. I'm going to go start to listen to these podcasts. I'm going to network. I'm going to do these things and invite in this better diet. So think about that, like what do you consume on a daily basis in terms of your thinking, right? And for most people, and I'll myself included, I fall into this too historically, and even today, I'll start going negative. I'll start thinking about why things won't work out, my worst fears, all of these things. And I know that I'm feeding myself that mental junk food, and I need to change it. And I catch myself and I listen to an inspiring podcast for 10 minutes or something like that. Or I'll go do some exercise for 5 minutes, walk around outside my office, like get some sunshine. Boom, mood instantly changed, right? So I think it's really about being mindful of what you consume. What are the thoughts that you continually think. You need to change it up. Think in terms of that metaphor of diet.
Yeah, I told my wife, it's funny you said that last night. I said, I need to change my algorithms on my Instagram feed because, I'm one of those, I don't do a lot of that, but I do enough. Like when I want to turn my brain off and I've worked really hard, I like to bring up a lot of humor. I like humor. I like funny. I want to sit there for maybe 30 minutes and have my feed coming up with some, classic comedies or some classic SNL skits or whatever it might be to kind of give me that break, from that hard work that I've been doing. But lately, my algorithm has been all this political garbage, right? I mean, we're right into that political season. There's so much. And, quite honestly, the algorithms are just giving you what you're watching more of. And I told her, it's like, somehow my comedy started dissipating from my algorithms. And all of a sudden, I'm getting all this political feed. It's so easy. Like you said, we get caught up in that drama, especially that news drama. And I found myself getting caught up in it. And it's hard not to do because it's watching that train wreck that's coming down the tracks. And, we're sitting there in a time where all politics and all news is a lot of drama. And it's hard to pull yourself out. So would you say the first thing to do if you're getting caught up? Because a lot of people don't even know they're caught up in it, right? I mean, so would you say that the first step is actually acknowledging or identifying the fact that you are getting caught up in it?
Yeah, that is a big part of a positive change is, knowing it's not going to happen instantly and catching yourself. So part of the process is you continually catch yourself, and life is about contrast. You're not always feeling happy, right? So when you feeling negative, oh my God, I'm feeling negative, right? Great. That's a great signal that I need to go take a walk outside, that I need to put my phone back in the drawer where it belongs, that I need to listen to some comedy or something like that. So it's that awareness about the fact that it is very easy to get distracted by negativity and drama. And in fact, so people who design the news and edit the news, there's psychologists working on this about how to get you addicted to drama. There's people who actually do this, some evil psychologist or whatever, maybe they pay them a lot of money, but there's, the clickbait thing, right? So that the people running the news and running social media, they know how the human brain works and they know how to get your attention, right? So that if you do get caught in that, don't blame yourself too much. Be aware of getting caught and say, okay, my process is I continually catch myself, and I catch myself quicker and quicker, and I get out of that negativity quicker and quicker so that I spend the majority of my time on a regular basis in positivity, good habits, positive intentions, and minority of that in that negativity, distraction, procrastination, all that kind of stuff.
And do you feel more people get caught up in that because they're looking for that distraction? Maybe they're going through so many of the emotions in life and they're feeling kind of beaten down and they just want to sit on a couch and just consume? Is that where it starts, or is it deeper than that?
I think it's kind of like this snowballing effect in a way, like it little feeds on itself. Naturally, if you're feeling a little bit of stress, you want a distraction. Or even if you've had a long day, you want some sort of a unwind or distraction. But the thing about any kind of addictions, like compare it to alcohol, right? So social media, probably not as bad as alcohol, but you can make an argument that it is. Once you get a particular form of substance that you use to pacify yourself, you get addicted to that substance itself so that you could be feeling perfectly fine and you need your social media dopamine hit, right? Or you need your news drama hit. So that you got to think about the power of the substance that you're using to relax or distract or de-stress. You want to choose that wisely. So I would not use social media or the phone, right? But if you are going to do that, there's something called the Pomodoro method. I don't know if you've heard this, but
No, I have.
okay, everyone can Google this after the show. Pomodoro, as in like Italian tomato, Pomodoro method. It's you work for 25 minutes and then you have a 5-minute break, hour after hour after hour. And studies have shown that basically your attention falls off after about 30 minutes and you kind of need a break. So I will do this. I will do a 5-minute, let me scroll social media for 5 minutes, and I go right back to work and do the 25 minutes straight. So that's something you can use if you really want to use social media as your form of pacification. You can do that, like that time, use 2 timers to do that. I would suggest, though, doing something a little healthier for the way you relax. And the big one is exercise. I exercise every day. You don't have to make a big deal out of it. You can literally walk outside, hit some sunshine for 5 minutes. Sunshine produces helpful neurotransmitters in your brain that boost your mood. So choose wisely what you use to pacify yourself with. That would be my big message. But yeah, social media is similar to alcohol. This is designed to be addictive. If you're going to do it, have some parameters around it, around your usage.
Yeah, I feel like, number one, the exercise thing, I agree with you 100%. I mean, my best thoughts come when I get out and I just do that walk. I come back with the most brilliant ideas and the things that really, I go, boy, my entire day changed because I went on that walk, or I went out and did some exercise because this came to me or that came to me. All of a sudden, I've got a whole good different direction, or something I would have never thought about sitting behind that desk trying to problem solve a solution, and so exercise, I tell people all the time, that's a big part of your mindset too. To physically feel good is important because it's going to impact your mindset. But if you're feeling terrible, if you're not feeling physically right, if you're not eating right, it's going to affect you upstairs, and it's going to really enhance who you are. But I think there's some things in social media that can be really good for people too, if they find it, if they look for it. If you get into those, I mean, so many brilliant things are being put on there, but it's kind of one of those things where when the negative starts to overtake it, like my feed, the comedy really helps. But I also enjoy a lot of the inspirational content. There's brilliant things, like I can get a lot of stuff on Alan Watts, who's going to come in and give me some brilliant takes on thought and leadership and on how I'm viewing the world. So there's all this good stuff packed in there, but unfortunately, a lot of times that's not what's being put in front of you. If people can take that time, like you said, that 5 minutes, it's great. Use that 5 minutes, but consume some incredibly thought-provoking content or very positive content, or something that's going to make you, that dopamine hit that's going to make you feel good about that next 30 minutes if you've taken that 5-minute break.
Yep. Yep. And it's that discipline of choosing your media sources, so that even if you get some political stuff added into your algorithm, do you have the discipline to scroll past it? Sure. Knowing that within 3 seconds, 10 seconds, you're going to forget about that. I really want to click on what so-and-so said. Like, let it go, right? Find some Alan Watts, or find somebody, Tony Robbins or something like that, that's going to inspire you and get your dopamine hit there from the positives.
Yeah, I mean, there's brilliant people on there. And unfortunately, like you said, our algorithms get stuck sometimes because we get that. And so most of it's not even true. A lot of stuff comes into our feeds. That's just a bunch of garbage. It's stuff just to get you, like that clickbait that you were talking about, to stop and wonder if it's true. And then you're on there for 10 seconds, and then it's a part of your algorithm. And the next thing you know, that's all you're getting. So like you said, you got to be careful with it. I think it can be a very good tool, but it can also be a very dangerous tool if you let it.
Definitely. I want to share a quick story. So I had a little bit of fall from grace yesterday. I went grocery shopping and I bought some chocolate ice cream. I don't know why. It was just there. It looked great. I generally don't eat desserts. And last night I had some ice cream and I didn't sleep very well last night. So social media, look at it like there's some junk food there. Do I want to eat the junk food? Because I'm going to regret it later. It's going to feel great in the moment. So again, I think that metaphor can be helpful for people. What am I consuming? What's it going to do to my body? What's it going to do to my brain? If I just pass by the chocolate ice cream in the aisle, I'm going to forget about it 10 minutes later and I won't even want it, right? So if you can have that attitude about your media, I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So tell me a little bit about your book. We've talked a little bit about it earlier, but tell me a little bit about your book.
Yes. Well, so the working title previously was Make the Break. It's changed. Okay, so it's not out yet. So making some tweaks on it. It's now called The Only Way Is Up. That's the new working title. I think I'm going to stick with it. And that was from a chapter that I recently wrote that I think is the most powerful chapter in the book. So the book overall is about mentors who showed up in my life. I didn't ask for them. They just showed up and they really changed the direction of my life, like my sixth grade teacher. So the book is called The Only Way Is Up, Accidental Mentors Who Changed My Life. So each chapter is about a person who showed up in my life unexpectedly, said some magic words like my sixth grade teacher, you have to be cruel to be kind. So The Only Way Is Up is about a story that I had when I was rock climbing. This is probably about 15 years ago, and this is in Berkeley, California. I was rock climbing on this. It's kind of like a practice rock that rock climbers use, but it's high enough that if you fell, you get pretty hurt. And the way I like sports is I like to dive in and really push myself. Rock climbing, you might not want to do that. If the consequences of falling are kind of big. So obviously I'm still alive here, but I'll tell the story. I was just getting into rock climbing and I watched some people climbing on this wall. I was inspired. I'd gone to a couple climbing gyms. I didn't have the climbing shoes yet, but I watched some people scurry up this rock like these graceful spiders. I can do that. I'm the kind of guy who likes to push himself, take on a challenge. So actually there was a kid who just had like basketball shoes on and scurried up the face of this rock. It's like, well, if he can do it. It didn't dawn on me this kid's probably done this 100 times, 1,000 times. So I follow his path. I get halfway up this rock and I don't know where to go. I am lost. And if anyone out there listening knows, if you rock climb and you can't see the path of where to go, you gotta relax. Don't freak out. The path will reveal itself. But I freaked out. And honestly, Rodman is like the only panic attack I've ever had in my entire life was when I was on this rock. It's not a good time to have a panic attack. So I could not see the way to the top of the rock. I looked down and I realized that if I fell, I'm going to get pretty hurt. Like I'm probably going to break a bone. It's not that high, but high enough. And fortunately, there were these very experienced climbers below, just on the ground, noticing that I was in trouble. And one of them, don't know the guy's name, don't know whatever happened to him, said to me, "Hey, dude, do you need help?" And I realized that this guy was going to help me. He had the confidence in just the way he was dressed and his muscles like this. I had confidence in this guy. And I said, yeah, I want to come down. I want to come down the rock. And all the climbers at once said, no. Then the main guy, the mentor, said, dude, the only way is up. He said, you have to keep climbing. If you come down, you're going to slip. It's safer to climb if you have a spot to go to. So I kind of argued with him, and then I realized that, man, I got to trust this guy. And I calmed myself down, I started breathing, I stopped shaking, and he literally pointed out the path to me. He says, go a foot to your left. There's a little foothold. And he coached me all the way to the top of the rock. And it was because he exuded this confidence, the way he spoke, and the way he held himself, and I was in no position to really argue with him, that I climbed all the way to the top. And I was so elated to get to the top that I didn't go back down and thank him. I was just so happy to, number one, be alive. I'm probably over dramatizing this. I don't know if I would have died if I fell, but I definitely would have probably broken something. I was so elated I didn't think to go back and like, hey, my name's Mike. So I don't know what happened to the guy, but dude, if you're out there listening, thank you. This is what the book is about, is that people somehow showing up in your life when you need them at the time and changing the course of your life literally. If I would have been up there alone, I don't know what would have happened. So this is what the book is about. It's mentors who show up in our lives, change the direction of our life, say some magic words, and really help you.
No, that's great. I think about Stephen Wright. I had a joke
Love
that
Stephen
I
Wright.
don't know why I thought about this, but he says if at first you don't succeed, parachuting is not for you. So I kind of think about that. I don't know why that relates to that story, you climbing that rock, but luckily you had that person there that identified your problem and got you to the top. But do you feel like, mentorship is so important. I think about the mentors in my life, the ones that I still even have. Every single day somebody comes into my life. Some are going to be mentors, some are not going to be mentors, but at the same time, it's kind of like being able to identify that person who can give you that, I don't want to say that value, because that's not what you expect from people, but are there that lift you up and really send you in the directions that you should be going. But it's equally important to make sure that you don't get those wrong people into your life that could actually drag you down that mountain.
Yeah.
How do you start to ascertain the difference between the two?
I think we're very smart. We can, I don't know about you, Rodman, but you can kind of get a read or a vibe on somebody. Some people have a lot of charisma though, and they can kind of have some negativity to them. So you got to be careful with charismatic people, but generally speaking, trust your gut. Like if you spend a little bit of time with someone and you're starting to feel like, I resonate with this person, I feel happy, I feel excited, I feel joy, I feel positive, right? If you're feeling that kind of vibe, and the mutual kind of vibe is you're amping each other up in a positive way, that's what you want to pay attention to. If you're feeling self-critical anger, if you get your anger stoked, if you get your self-righteousness stoked, kind of the more that power, but on the negative side, you may not want to be using that person as a mentor. And also, like, a little bit of that might be okay, a little bit of that negativity. If you think about coaches who have a style that maybe yell at their players occasionally, a little bit of that in small doses might be good, but you got to be careful with that. You generally want someone who's more positive and makes you feel like there's possibility and positivity. So I would say trust your gut. You're gonna, and you might even get fooled. But if you come away from meeting with someone and you're like, I kind of got a weird feeling, I feel like they put me down or they made me feel guilty or, really self-critical, you may not want to use that person as a mentor.
Yeah, and that it's interesting to know, because you think about the people who are long-term in your life, long-term mentors are the guys who you're writing about when they're 80 years old because they had such an influence on you when you were so young. But a lot of people come through your life, and the people that are generally long-term will be those people that you'll talk about as being positive, being a mentor, being a big part, because people do have that ability to sort that out. Sometimes not. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Like you said, sometimes you might get, I don't want to call it the false prophet, but get that person in your life that really actually brings that wrong kind of energy in and takes you down some levels. But, you got to really identify that quickly, be able to go, you know what, this person's not right for me, or I'm not liking how I'm feeling, or I'm not liking the kind of information, the data that I'm getting, I'm not liking how they're treating other people, whatever it might be. But I think it's really important for people to take that time to make sure that they've really gone through with somebody and said, is this person good for me, or is this person bad for me?
Yeah.
Is this person lifting me up, or is this person bringing me down? But I agree with you. I think we've got it inside of us, but it's a matter of really, sometimes we might hold on a little bit too long. I always say people you can be fast to bring people in, but also be fast to let people go if you need to.
Yeah, definitely. You always have the option to fire your mentor, fire your coach, fire your therapist. You have power to do that. There's no law that says you have to continue a relationship that's not helpful for you or toxic. I think about that sixth grade teacher. That was kind of an interesting thing, because at the first glance it's like, okay, this guy's just a jerk and he's mean, right? But I realized with the intentionality of the person that he cared about me, he spent time, even though he was really, really strict. So sometimes a methodology might be a cruel to be kind of methodology, a tough love methodology. but pay attention to that person's intention, right? What is their intention? Do they want good things for you? And even if they want good things for you and their style is too harsh and you're going to internally be self-critical, that might not be the best fit also. So it's really like getting the read on the intentions of that person who's a possible mentor or coach, and then how that resonates with you. That might not be a good fit. You might need a little more benevolence. It really depends on what your style is.
Yeah. I kind of feel too, a mentor doesn't have to be a physical person. I mean, a mentor could come through books. A mentor could come through those podcasts. It could come through so many different forms of content that, like when I was growing up, we had books, that's about all we had. We didn't have the social media. We didn't have, the internet. I don't want to age myself too much here, but we just didn't have the same access to incredible people. And so I feel like, we've got this incredible data age where we can get so much information, some bad. Again, just like you're sorting out your mentors, you can get just as much bad information as you can get really good positive information. But your mentors aren't limited to the people that are physically coming into your life.
No, it's true. It's just, you're right. We are blessed with and cursed with the internet. So you got to choose, but there's a lot of access. I mentioned this earlier, but get out there and meet people, go out there and network. It's tough in this day and age. People work from home. We tend to isolate ourselves, but like you go out into the world, like go to the gym, join a gym, talk to people there. If you go to church, do that more regularly or whatever it is, join a club, running club, book club, where you force yourself to interact with other people and meet more people. So that's what advice I give to some of my clients as well, is like, can you mix it up? And you never know who you're going to meet. You got to increase the kind of odds of meeting new people, and don't just stay at home.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, Michael, I want people to be able to find you because, I know that you've got a lot to give the world. And I know that you're a very positive person who can really help people with mindset and really evolve exponentially. How can we get people to really find that greatness, find that outlier space? So what do people need to do to find you?
Yeah, pretty easy. Just Google me. My last name, it has a unique spelling, so I'm probably the only one that's going to come up. Michael Ceely, and that's spelled Ceely. Michael Ceely. Just Google that. It's also michaelceely.com. On that site, there's links to all my social media. Michael_Ceely on Instagram. I do a lot there. I'm also on YouTube. So yeah, just Google me. You'll find I have a lot of videos. You can check out my book. I do some blogging as well. A lot of good stuff there. And I do like to network with people like you, Rodman, and get the message out there with positivity. So we're both doing some good stuff, I think, in the world. And the more people tune into positive stuff like this, I think the better off the world's going to be.
Couldn't agree with you more on that. And I always ask the one last question for the show. And that's if you could go back in time and just sit down with your younger self and take all this knowledge, all these things that you've learned over your lifetime, but you can only go back and give yourself that one piece of the most valuable advice that you've accumulated over that time. What would you tell your younger self?
Be more patient with myself. That doesn't mean don't push yourself, doesn't mean be complacent, right? It doesn't mean be stagnant. It means if you're putting in the work, and you know you're doing the right thing, be patient. And I say that because I was pursuing professional bicycle racing. I think retrospectively, I quit a little too early. I could have pushed myself, continued to be a little more patient and gone a little further. I don't know if I would have made it to an elite level, but I left a little bit of gas in the tank. And that's one of these things, I don't have a lot of regrets in life, but that's one of them. Is like, even if I didn't make it to the top, I wanted to see, I could have gone a little further, I think. So to my younger self, I would have said, be patient. If you love what you're doing, and I say this to my clients, especially who are business owners who are trying to grow their business, if you love what you're doing and the service is helping people and you feel really good about it, keep going. Don't quit. Be patient. Try to get all the gas out of the tank. If you need to quit, and the gas is finally out of the tank, sure. But yeah, be more patient with yourself.
And I think that's how you avoid regret.
Yes.
Like you said, looking back, with regret is because you've moved on too quickly, or you didn't give it all you had, or you didn't fully know, or you didn't try. So I really, really like that. Michael, thank you so much for being on the show today. Everybody connect with Michael. I know that he's got so much good information. Find him, learn more about him, learn more about his book, and thank you for listening.
Thanks, Rodman.